What does it mean to abolish? Abolitionists abolish slavery. To abolish means to get rid of. Your Harriet Tubman, Mother Moses, she's the woman that led African American slaves to the Promised Land in the Underground Railroad, the queen of the Underground Railroad. And when Harriet Tubman ran away from her plantation and became free, she made 19 trips back to the South to save family and friends. Harriet Tubman was born between the years of 1820 and 1822. We're not exactly sure when she was born because they didn't keep detailed records of slaves in those days. She was born into the institution of slavery, which was horrible. Her estimated date of freedom was December of 1849, when she ran away from her plantation in Maryland to Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. Harriet Tubman was a leader on the Underground Railroad. What was the There's good reason why Harriet Tubman is known as the Moses of her people. Her life's mission, to bring freedom to people. Bragging rights definitely belong to Harriet Tubman. She bragged that she never ran her train off the track, never lost a passenger. Look, she knew what she was doing, and she wanted to free slaves, bring freedom to the slaves, to emancipate them, and by golly, she did. Missions to the South. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which is a big old fancy word for saying there won't be no more slavery in the United States. Hi-ya! In 1865, it got real, legally real. The 13th Amendment officially outlawed slavery in the United States. I don't know about you, but the abolitionists scored a victory. For slave owners in the South, when President Abraham Lincoln was elected to the presidency of the United States in 1860, that spelled trouble to the future of slavery in the South. The lady we know as Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross. She would later become known as Minty. It is estimated that Harriet Tubman was born on the eastern shores of Maryland. By 1831, Harriet Tubman had already heard her first stories of this underground railroad. No, not in the railroad that you and I think of a secret network that could lead slaves to freedom. In 1834, in a great case of mistaken identity, Harriet Tubman was hit in the head with a weight, and it would crush her skull. Now, it was that the weight was aimed at someone else, but it hit her in the head, and it caused her to collapse and fall. Well, it caused her to have these seizures that she would continue to have all throughout her life, and she would say that they gave her great visions and vivid dreams of what God was telling her to do. The seizures that were caused by this skull fracture from that weight being thrown at her head, well, it caused her to, it's called hypersomnia, which caused her to just randomly fall asleep at different times. She'd be talking and she'd fall asleep. She married John Tubman in 1844. Harriet Tubman ran away from her plantation to Philadelphia in 1849. In 1858, Harriet Tubman met John Brown, known for the raid at Harper's Ferry later on in the story. 1859, John Brown led a raid at Harper's Ferry. Well, why did he do that? Well, he was trying to cause an insurrection, a slave rebellion, to repeal and just revolt against the institution of slavery in this country. Harriet Tubman earned the affectionate nickname Mother Moses because just like the prophet Moses in the book of Exodus, Moses led her people to freedom. In 1863, Harriet Tubman became the first woman in American history to lead a raid when she was leading parts of the Union Army to liberate slaves. During the American Civil War, Harriet Tubman worked as a spy, a cook, and a secret agent. Well, the Civil War ended in 1865, and even though Abraham Lincoln had been killed, assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, she was still awarded a Medal of Freedom for her bravery. Harriet Tubman died of pneumonia in 1913. John Brown believed that the only way to get rid of slavery in the United States was by an armed revolution. The raid on Harper's Ferry was led by John Brown. 7 people were killed. His mission was the addition of weapons in the arms of slaves so they could become free and lead a rebellion against the country's government. John Brown even asked Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass to join him in the raid. Well, they politely declined. Unfortunately, John Brown and his bravery and courageousness, well, he was hung for his bravery. John Brown was a well-known abolitionist. The Harper's Ferry Revolt was an effort by armed abolitionist John Brown to arm and to liberate freed slaves. Well, he tried to initiate a slave revolt, something that very similarly happened successfully in Haiti. William Lloyd Garrison was a journalist, abolitionist, suffragette. More importantly, he was an agent for social change. William Lloyd Garrison was the editor-in-chief of the abolitionist newspaper, The Liberator. He spoke out loudly about the horrible injustice that was slavery in the United States. At the Ohio Women's Rights Convention in 1851, Sojourner